Bethesda for the past several years has fallen from some seriously high heights. Since the original release of Fallout 4, which saw much criticism because of its lack of role-playing abilities and actual innovation compared to Bethesda's previous titles like Fallout 3 and Skyrim. And Bethesda's further lack of anything innovative and new towards the gaming industry and RPGs in general. We have seen many other games do what Bethesda does, but better. Cyberpunk 2077, Baldur's Gate, The Outer Worlds, in my opinion at least, Avowed, Obsidian's upcoming game, which really focuses on handcrafted worlds and solid writing and characters, something Bethesda can't seem to get right with Starfield, with Shattered Space, and with any new release that they just seem to put out. If we went back 1 year, to September 2023, to the release of Starfield and to the release of Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, we would see some major differences and the actual appeal to both releases and from the community itself. Everyone across the board adored Phantom Liberty and what CDPR created from the broken mess of Cyberpunk. Starfield, in fact, was very divided. People were complaining about it just because it was an Xbox title, right? Xbox exclusive. You have those PlayStation-centric fanboys who were talking about it in that light. And then you had people who had serious criticisms about the game after actually playing it. And then you had people that adored it, and you had people that saw Bethesda just can't seem to develop something good anymore. I really feel like Cyberpunk 2077's Phantom Liberty really woke everyone up after the release of Starfield. At that point, most of us were probably done with the game with our first playthrough, probably going back a little bit to complete some Starborn stuff, to see what's kind of in the game after you first complete it. The issue is, Phantom Liberty came out, and we saw the massive quality difference in story, in cinematics, in gameplay, and just overall presentation of the game. That is one thing that Phantom Liberty had going for it compared to any other role-playing game released that year. Its presentation was insane. And of course, Baldur's Gate 3, a game that released just weeks prior to Starfield, which ended up being the winner of the Game of the Year award at the Game Awards, the Jeff Keighley hosted show. The biggest game of 2023 was in fact Baldur's Gate 3, and at that point it hadn't even released on Xbox yet. So of course you had people online saying, look, this game that's on PC and PlayStation, then that is an RPG from a studio that has not gotten a lot of attention in the past, even though they have a very good track record and have made some very good games. Baldur's Gate 3 was their push into the mainstream. Personally, for myself, I have never played a Baldur's Gate game before Baldur's Gate 3. I adored the game. I adored every minute I was playing it. I played mostly every single other Bethesda game, excluding the really old ones. But I didn't enjoy Starfield as much as I enjoyed Baldur's Gate 3, or as much as I enjoyed Phantom Liberty. I wouldn't even be surprised if people argued with me, or if I would probably agree with them in this sentiment, that Outer Worlds, the Outer Worlds made by Obsidian, which is a much smaller and scaled down space sci-fi game, has better writing, has better exploration, and better characters and companions than Starfield. And that's because they actually put it into a quality line. They didn't just go bloated with what Starfield did. Starfield went too big. Outer Worlds, granted, probably too small, right? But again, AA Studio Obsidian, they didn't have enough funding to really go crazy. Hopefully the Outer Worlds 2, they get to really expand on their awesome IP they have here. But Starfield went too far. The Outer Worlds beats it out in a lot of those categories that makes a Bethesda game a Bethesda game. But one of the main reasons why Bethesda can't be saved is because all of the people who worked at the Bethesda company, who worked at developing the games, and who ran the studios, the majority of the high-ranking ones are gone. For example, Pete Hines. He was the former head of global publishing for Bethesda Softworks. He retired from Bethesda after 24 years about last year. He was with the company for almost 2.5 decades. He worked for one company, Bethesda, for 2.5 decades. And it's not even going to get into discussion if it's because of the Microsoft management or how Xbox was handling them, or if really, he's an old guy. He want to retire, right? Want to focus on his family more. If he has kids or if he has grandkids, obviously you're going to want to spend time with them, not worrying about the global publishing for a studio that can't seem to put out massively big bangers anymore. Second up, Will Shen. Hopefully I said that right. Lead quest designer for Starfield. He left the company, and you probably saw him during the little, showings of Starfield in 2023 before they released the game at the Xbox showcase. He was really talking about it with a bunch of other Bethesda developers, but he left the company because there were challenges of coordinating with a large team. So another discussion we'll be talking about later, how Bethesda has fallen from grace because of those developers leaving that were veteran, but also because their teams have gotten too large to handle. There's too much corporate in Bethesda now. unlike what there was with the Fallout 4, Fallout 3, and Skyrim days, where 100 people came in, they developed the game they wanted, and now Bethesda is across 4 studios across Canada and the United States, and they have to have a meeting every single time they probably want to do something. Next up, Nate Perkypile, hopefully I said that right. He contributed to every single Bethesda game since Fallout 3. He left the company to become a solo developer with the new game, The Axis Unseen, which releases actually later this month. Next up, and probably a name that you know well within Bethesda, Jeff Gardner. He was the producer for Fallout 3, all of its add-ons, the lead producer on Fallout 4, and the project lead on Fallout 76 and Wastelanders. This guy is a Bethesda veteran. He left the studio a few years ago to start another independent studio, and a lot of Bethesda developers are actually working at that studio, a lot of the former ones. So it's safe to say that, again, these developers either wanted to move on to new projects or just weren't happy with the way Bethesda was going. It was leading into more corporate, more managerial styled working at a studio, right? Especially after the Microsoft acquisition. There were now new quotas they had to meet, obviously. You're under one of the biggest companies in the world now. You have to be making games at an efficient manner. You have to be making games that are going to sell well. You can't just make the games you want to anymore at Bethesda. You have to hit certain quotas. They have to have certain things. You can't be as creative as you want to be. Even if Microsoft and Xbox do push that we want our studios to be creative, why are all these developers leaving then? Me mentioning these great Bethesda veteran developers is not to take away from the current great Bethesda developers that the company still does have, but this goes to show that everyone who made Bethesda when they were making Skyrim, when they were making Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Oblivion, Morrowind, they're all gone. Those people have moved on to different things, moved on to studios, they've retired because Bethesda is getting too corporate or because they just want to try something new. Jeff Gardner, I don't exactly know whether it was, he got tired of all the management around Bethesda because the company got too big and was acquired under Microsoft, or if he just wanted to try his own thing. We won't know. But for example, Nate Perkypile, again, he did actually move from Bethesda to his own solo development studio because he didn't like that the company was getting too big. Same with Will Shen. He moved across to a different studio because it was challenging to coordinate with such a massive team. When game studios get too big and get too corporate, they fail. And we have seen this before. We've seen it with BioWare. And let's be honest here, BioWare was a fan favorite studio when they were still making Mass Effect up to Dragon Age Inquisition. Like, that is their shit. Dragon Age is their game. And thankfully, EA has allowed them to make another single-player Dragon Age. And I'm excited for it personally with Veilguard. We've seen it with CDPR, right? They released Cyberpunk 2077. The issue? Their company got too corporate. Now, it's not to say the game was bad, but they rushed it out. It wasn't done. It was nowhere near done. And yet, the investors and the studio and the heads of the studio still thought, yes, it's okay to release this broken, buggy, unfinished game. When a studio and company gets too corporate like that, it starts causing problems. And we are just at the start of it with Bethesda. In my opinion, no matter what they add to Starfield, whether it's expansions, whether it's updates, it can't save this game. This game is doomed to be completely dead compared to other Bethesda game standards. This game I doubt will last a decade, right? I doubt it'll have a 10,000, 20,000 concurrent player rate in 5 to 10 years. I highly doubt it. Bethesda's chances of turning this game around, it has to be a complete overhaul of the entire game. It has to be a complete overhaul because what they have here is decent. And that's disappointing because Bethesda should be going for absolutely fucking amazing. And unfortunately, they are not. But let's be honest here as well. One of the main reasons Bethesda's lack of quality, especially in its writing, has been downhill as of late is a man named Emil. I'm not even going to try to say his last name. I feel like I'm going to butcher it, but you probably know him. Emil was one of the head writers of Fallout 4 and of Starfield, right? And let's be honest here. The quality of writing and the main stories compared to Fallout 3, there's a noticeable dip there. Let's not pretend. Let's not, try to sidetrack anything. He has done a fundamentally worse job than Bethesda did years ago. I don't know if he worked on Fallout 3, but if he did as a writer, what the fuck, man? Were you smoking something? I'm gonna be honest here. Compared to Fallout 3's main story, Fallout 4 and Starfield are on a completely different level. This is they had Fallout 3 at the top of the mountain, and then he decided to just drop kick Starfield off the mountain, while Fallout 4 is barely clinging onto a rock. It is so disappointing that I don't understand how with more time, your studio gets worse at making stories. I don't get that. But that's not to say that plenty of side quests in Starfield and Fallout 4 aren't great either. The Silver Shroud questline in Fallout 4, that shit, masterpiece. The heist quest in Fallout 4, right, where you work with Bobby No-Nos and you have to get into the vault in Diamond City, but it turns out to be this whole different thing. That is a well-written quest. You have so many quests in Fallout 4 and even Far Harbor that are amazing, right? And then Starfield, the Crimson Fleet questline with the UC SysDef stuff. I love that. I thought that questline was great. You have the actual like scientists that used to be a part of UC on their Terramorph like technology research team, right? That is also a good side quest. They can write solid stories here. It's just the main stories, I don't know what the hell they're doing. They have to be on something because it's such a downgrade to compared to what we've had in the past. And if your side content is drastically better than your main story, what is the point of the main story? Let's not also pretend like the creation engine hasn't been a massive issue for Bethesda. There's been clamoring and people agreeing, and I'm kind of on the side of agreeing with the situation that Bethesda should keep creation engine 2, but the main issue I have is that it needs to be updated more. Like how we're still seeing bugs from previous Bethesda games in Starfield, in Fallout 76, in Fallout 4. Remember that power armor glitch? That was in Fallout 76, and it was causing everyone's power armor. If you played the game, and oh, I played it, every single time you get into a power armor, you turn into some Wendigo man. It is so, and even in Starfield, there's so many just visual glitches that, yes, we're in past Bethesda games. How is this an overhaul of your engine, and yet you still find these bugs? Their most patched game, and yet you still find bugs that were in Fallout 4, Skyrim, and Fallout 3. It's absolutely insane that still, to this day, even with their biggest overhaul of this engine yet, I really feel like they need to have another overhaul just for the bug fixing alone and for the technology. Because yes, their physics engine for Creation Engine 2 is amazing. What they have accomplished here is somewhat of a technological leap. It is. But it's not enough compared to other AAA studios. If this was 2016, this would be at top of its game, man. We would be at the top. If No Man's Sky hadn't come out yet, we'd be at the top of the top. This would be the creme de la creme. Absolutely amazing. We are in 2023, 2024 era of gaming. This shit looks like and should like feels like a 2018 game that should have been coming from Bethesda. It's like if they skipped Fallout 76 and released this early, honestly. And yes, the technology is new to Bethesda, but they really need to update it because this is way too late for what we should be having from Bethesda. Bethesda took a gamble with Starfield. They did, and I respect the studio as a whole for taking that gamble. They wanted to try something that was out of their comfort zone. They failed. It's not even failing in a financial level because 100%, they probably made bank on this game. Xbox and Bethesda probably made some good money. They probably sold tons of Game Pass subscriptions, sold a lot of like special editions, deluxe editions. No doubt, I was a deluxe edition buyer myself. But from the community standpoint, they failed in what they set out to do. This game is not going to last a decade. And that was the reason why Starfield, in my opinion at least, failed. They failed with Starfield in this way because they meant for it to last 10 years. Fallout 4 and Skyrim was not developed that way. They made the game that they wanted to make and it's just, it took off and it lasted 10 years. That was lucky chance. Bethesda went into Starfield thinking, this game, people love playing our games for 10 years, so we're going to center the entire game around that. No, they should have centered the game around what they did with Skyrim and Fallout 4, telling good side quests with good choices and good stories, not focusing on if people are going to be playing this game for 10 years because Fallout 5 isn't coming out till 2034. Realistically, before Starfield came out, especially before Starfield, I mean, like, honestly, like, I know a lot of people won't agree with me on this. I love 76. I 100% know the issues that the game had at launch, but I love the game personally. I still play it a lot. But Bethesda used to be one of my top 3 developers. They did. And it's so disappointing that they've fallen so far from grace because I would like a year ago, 2 years ago, massive Bethesda fanboy. I just like any semblance of anyone critiquing them, I would defend them, no doubt. Like if my channel was older, you'd probably find videos of me just blatantly defending them for like no fucking reason, just for the smallest things. My Starfield review, I called the game brilliant but flawed. Realistically, going back on that, I mean, I can't really switch the title because it wouldn't co-align with the video, but I mean, you know, my opinion on the game would be vastly different from what it was then. And I still do play Starfield. I still plan on covering Bethesda games and covering Fallout 76 updates, making more videos about it, because honestly, 76 I feel like is one of the things that has just kept me in line with Bethesda. The developers at Fallout 76's like just studio in general, or Double 11 or whoever makes games with them, they are doing a fantastic job. They are doing an amazing job. They are doing an absolute 10 out of 10 job with 76. They're releasing new content. They have the new like raids coming later this year. I've played them on the public test server. Fantastic job. And then you look at the studio that's working on Shattered Space, and I'm looking at it like, what the fuck? How is the recent map expansion to Fallout 76, that is free, mind you, and comes with a whole quest line, better than Shattered Space, that is $30? How is that possible? How is the like small team working on Fallout 76 producing better content that has more longevity than Shattered Spaces studio at Bethesda? How does that happen? I need to know where the quality bar goes because yes, and I really feel like Starfield should implement this, is a public test server, realistically, or even a private test server, right? Allowing players who are on PC to test the game, even if you make them sign NDAs or even if you let them publicly test it. It is a great thing that they did for Fallout 76. I really feel like it really helps them with their feedback as well before they're fully releasing the update where they need to make changes. And honestly, it's one of the best things that Bethesda has done for Fallout 76. It needs to happen for Starfield because they need more feedback than what we are giving them online, because most of their feedback right now is coming from like social media and then obviously videos like this, right? Even if a Bethesda developer watches or doesn't, you're going to have another video saying Bethesda just can't be saved here. Like, they have been just disappointing everyone on the frequent basis. And of course there are those people who still love Bethesda, and I want to love Bethesda, but until they start producing quality that I know they can produce, I know Bethesda can put out bangers, but they just haven't done it in so long, it's just unlikely to happen. Again, I don't hate Bethesda. I don't hate like any of the games that they've developed. I enjoyed Starfield. I did. I still play it from time to time because I think the combat is some of like the best that Bethesda has ever put out, and the graphics, again, it's fun to play, to shoot enemies and to just run around using powers. Starfield brings me that enjoyment. I will still play Fallout 4 on replays. I'll still play Fallout 3 sometimes. Fallout New Vegas, I know, made by Obsidian, but I love Fallout, right? It's my favorite franchise of all time. The issue is that Starfield, I have not replayed through Starfield on a new character because in sense, I don't need to, right? Obviously with the whole Starborn thing, that's a completely different discussion, but they've made it unnecessary for me to like want to replay their game because all of the content, even if it is solid, it's not as replayable as the content in Fallout 4, 3, and just all of their other games. And it's so disappointing because I want to be replaying Starfield dozens of times, hundreds of times. I have put over 800 hours into Fallout 4 over all my playthroughs. That is an insane amount of time. With Starfield, I've put about 240 hours, which again, fairly, pretty fair for 1 year's worth of playtime. But I would honestly love for it to be more. I would love to be able to put 300, 400, 500, 600 hours into Starfield. The issue is that Bethesda realistically what they need here is an overhaul of the game. If they completely overhaul Starfield, and I mean from the ground up, like they basically have to develop a whole new game. I want to see some Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty shit when they're like releasing new updates for this game. I want to see overhauls. I want to see new skill trees. I want to see new quests. I want to see completely overhauled companion system because that shit's ass. I want to see a lot of stuff added to Starfield within the next 5 years. I would like to come back to Starfield in a few years and see this is not the game I played back in 2023. This is much better. This is much cleaner. It looks better. It feels better. It's just a game that I would have wanted back in 2023. I want to go to 2027 and look back and be like, yes, this game aged well. They fixed it. But thank you all for watching this video. If you did enjoy, consider leaving a like, sharing, commenting, and subscribing if you so choose to. Thank you all for the massive support as of late with a bunch of like Starfield related and Bethesda related content I've been making. I obviously plan on making more than just Bethesda based content. I've released a video recently called Revisiting Halo Infinite. It's done like almost 900 views, into my channel. That's fucking awesome. I was very happy about that video's success. So thank you for watching all those videos. If you are returning and if you are a new, new watcher to my channel, thank you for sticking to the end of this video. Thank you all for watching again, and I'll see you guys in the next video.